A millionaire CEO became a street vendor for love of a poor girl. Before we begin the story, tell us in the comments, what city are you watching from? Enjoy the story. Maya Santos adjusted the colorful tarp that displayed her handmade jewelry on a busy Manhattan sidewalk. Special offer! Special offer! Maya shouted through her shiny pink plastic megaphone. Handmade jewelry for those with good taste and a tight budget. Oh, sorry, I meant a selective budget. Check out this ring. Maya held up a gold-colored piece with a turquoise stone. Perfect for when your mother-in-law comes over for dinner, and you want to show some class without spending the kids' inheritance. A woman stopped and picked up the ring to take a closer look. How much is it? For you, beautiful, $20. But if you promise to wear it at your next family dinner, I'll do $15, and throw in a bracelet for free. While wrapping up the sale, Maya didn't notice Henry Sterling storming out of the Sterling Luxury Building. His high-end company took up 3 full floors of the tower next door. Mr. Sterling, his personal assistant Jennifer tried to keep up with his long strides, about the meeting with the Japanese. Cancelled, Henry said, not slowing down. If they can't grasp basic brand management concepts, they're not worth our time. But sir, it's a $3 million deal. Jennifer, I lose $3 million every time someone wastes my morning with amateur presentations. Just then, Henry tripped on the corner of Maya's tarp, sending half her jewelry crashing to the ground. The metallic clatter of necklaces, earrings, and bracelets echoed on the pavement. Everyone turned to look. Maya froze, staring at the mess, then exploded. Hey, what do you think you're doing? You just stomped on my jewelry like it was a pile of leaves. Henry stopped and turned slowly. In his 32 years, no one had ever yelled at him in public. He looked down and saw a young woman with brown hair tied up in a messy bun, ripped jeans, and a t-shirt that read, "I'm an artist, not your free design team. Didn't you see where you were going?" Maya continued, kneeling down to pick up her pieces. Or do you only notice things that cost as much as an apartment? Henry began, but she cut him off. Oh, save it. Look at this mess. That necklace was for a client at 2 o'clock. Maya held up beads, some of them with broken strings. Now I have to redo everything because the king of arrogance decided the world is his personal carpet. Jennifer stood there, stunned. In 5 years working for Henry, she had never seen anyone talk to him like that. Henry Sterling was known as the Ice Emperor, a CEO who never smiled, never apologized, and certainly never tolerated being disrespected. But instead of exploding with anger as everyone expected, Henry felt something strange, something he hadn't felt in, well, ever. It was like someone had flipped on a light in a room that had been dark for decades. How much? He asked simply. How much what? Maya looked up, frowning. How much to make up for this mess? Maya scoffed. Oh, now you want to pay? That's new. Rich guy steps on the poor girl's stuff, then throws money around to ease his guilt. Henry reached for his wallet, but Maya was faster. She stood up and grabbed her pink megaphone. Attention, attention, she shouted. We have a rare sighting here, a corporate executive who actually noticed other people exist. Anyone want a photo for National Geographic? People started gathering, some laughing, some pulling out phones to record. Henry felt something he hadn't felt in years, social discomfort. Jennifer stood nearby, ready to call security. Please, Henry said, his voice quieter now, almost unsure. I really do want to make it right. Maya paused, surprised by his tone. She studied him for a moment, clear aligners on his teeth, a suit that cost more than 6 months of her rent, a watch that could pay for her entire college degree. All right, Mr. Gucci, she sighed. If you really want to help, buy everything. Everything, everything, every single piece. Maya gestured toward the scattered collection. There are 50 pieces. Regular price is $500, but since you're a premium customer who comes with a footprint included, let's make it $600. Jennifer whispered in Henry's ear. Sir, I can handle this if you want. No, Henry interrupted, pulling out his black card. Do you take card? Maya laughed. A real laugh that made Henry blink, slightly dazed. I'll take blood-signed promissory notes if I have to, but fair warning, if your card gets declined, I'm yelling even louder. As Henry swiped his card through Maya's little pink card reader, covered in unicorn stickers, she didn't stop talking. You know, for a CEO who looks like he just ate a sour lemon ice cream, you're not as bad as I thought. Most of your suit and tie colleagues would have walked right over my jewelry and never looked back. Some would even complain I got their expensive shoes dirty. How do you know I'm a CEO? Henry asked, genuinely curious. Oh, come on. Maya rolled her eyes as she wrapped the pieces. The $3,000 suit, the GPS-enabled watch, the assistant who looks like a corporate ninja. Either you're a CEO or you're on your way to audition for a Wall Street movie. Henry looked over at Jennifer, who seemed ready to jump in and defend her boss, but he subtly gestured for her to stay quiet. And you, he said, how did you learn to make jewelry? Ah, that's a long story. It involves a Portuguese grandma, a Christmas jewelry kit, and the discovery that I've got two left hands for everything except making costume jewelry. Maya finished wrapping the pieces and placed them in a craft paper bag decorated with her drawings. I study jewelry design at Pratt Institute. Well, I study when I can afford the tuition. Henry took that in, something stirring in his chest. This girl was selling jewelry on the street to pay for college. Suddenly, his mergers and acquisitions issues felt small. Pratt's a good school, he said, without thinking. You know it? Maya looked surprised. I thought you executive types only knew places like Harvard, Yale, and other schools that sound like fancy cat sneezes. Henry laughed. Really laughed. A short, rough sound that made Jennifer open her eyes wide. I know a few people who studied there, he said, still smiling a little. Good for them. I bet they didn't have to sell jewelry on the sidewalk to pay tuition. Maya handed him the bag. Here you go, your jewelry to make up for the historical stomp. Maya Santos, she said, holding out her hand with a wry smile. Street artist, future designer, and defender of street vendors' rights against clueless executives. Henry looked at her hand, then shook it formally. Henry. Just Henry? No last name? How mysterious, Maya teased. Let me guess, Henry Million in the bank? Sterling, he said. Henry Sterling. Maya's eyes widened. Sterling? Like the Sterling luxury dynasty? The company with that store I'll never be able to step into, let alone buy a paperclip from. That's the one. Maya let out a soft whistle. Well, that explains the shoes that probably cost more than my car, which I don't have. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Henry felt odd, like he was seeing his life from the outside for the first time. Jennifer cleared her throat quietly, reminding him he had 2 meetings waiting and a conference call with Tokyo. I should, Henry began. Go save the world from ugly ties and badly made PowerPoint slides? Maya finished. Go ahead, Mr. Sterling, and thanks for buying the jewelry, even if it was your fault. As Henry turned to go, something made him pause. He came back and pulled a business card from his pocket. If you ever need anything. Maya took the card and read it out loud. Henry Sterling, CEO, Sterling Luxury Dynasty, private contact. She looked at him, doubtful. Seriously, what would I call you for? Tips on buying $1,000 shoes? Maybe, Henry said, and for the second time in a few minutes he smiled. Or maybe you'll have some advice on how I can avoid stepping on more handmade jewelry. First tip, look down once in a while. The world exists below the eye level of corporate giants. Henry nodded, storing that away along with a strange feeling in his chest he couldn't quite name. As he walked back to his building, carrying a bag of handmade jewelry, and with Maya's sarcastic voice still echoing in his ears, he didn't notice that Jennifer was mentally recording every second to report later to HR. What he also didn't notice was that Maya slipped the business card into the front pocket of her jeans, instead of tossing it out like she usually would with anything related to arrogant executives. And Maya grabbed her canvas and walked away, bouncing with happiness for having sold all her pieces. And Henry? Henry went back to his office on the 47th floor, placed the bag of jewelry on his mahogany desk, and spent the next 15 minutes staring out the window, thinking about lively brown eyes, wild hair, and a pink megaphone. For some reason he couldn't explain, the Manhattan view had never looked so interesting. The next morning, exactly at 7 o'clock, Henry Sterling was hiding behind a hot dog stand, watching Maya arrange her jewelry with the same energetic spirit as the day before. He had spent the whole night thinking about that meeting, replaying every sarcastic word she had said, every animated gesture. Mr. Sterling? Jennifer appeared beside him, clearly confused. You have a meeting with the board in 15 minutes. Cancelled, Henry muttered, adjusting his sunglasses and the baseball cap he had bought in Times Square at 6 in the morning. His first purchase from a store that cost less than $100 in, well, ever. But sir, Jennifer, I need a day off. A day? Excuse me? You heard me. A day off. Take the rest of the day too, with full pay. Jennifer blinked, thinking maybe she had fainted on her feet and was dreaming. Are you all right? Did you eat something bad? Do you have a fever? Henry waved her off with a vague gesture, turning his attention back to Maya, who was now shouting through a pink megaphone. Attention, Manhattan workers. Your wedding rings are calling. They want some friends for when you forget where you left them after happy hour. Taking a deep breath, Henry crossed the street and walked up to Maya's stand. He had practiced his approach all night. Nothing too forward, nothing that gave away who he really was. Just Harry, a regular guy. Good morning, he said, trying to make his voice sound casual. Maya looked up and froze for a second. Henry had a moment of panic, thinking she recognized him, but then she smiled. Not the sarcastic smile from the day before, but something friendlier. Hey, you came back, she said, putting down the megaphone. Don't tell me you broke all the jewelry and need more. No, Henry laughed nervously, touching the brim of his cap. I just was in the neighborhood and thought I'd see how you were doing. Maya crossed her arms, tilting her head. Really? The almighty Henry Sterling was in the neighborhood? What neighborhood do you think this is, Park Avenue? Uh-oh. She recognized him. Actually, Henry said quickly, I'm Harry Smith. Do you know that Henry Sterling guy? I work as an accountant. Well, I did. I'm unemployed. Maya studied him for a long moment. Henry started sweating under the cotton t-shirt he had bought in a rush, another new experience. When was the last time he wore cotton? Harry Smith, Maya repeated slowly. Unemployed accountant. Exactly. That's why I'm here, getting a feel for life outside the office. Maya threw her head back and laughed. Oh, that's a good one. And I'm Maya Rockefeller, heiress to a peanut fortune. I didn't. Man, you tried, but look. Maya pointed at him from head to toe. First, that cap still has the tag hanging from it. Second, that shirt still has fold lines like it just came off the shelf. And third, she took his hand. Your hands are softer than mine after using hand cream. Henry looked at his hands, betrayed by his weekly manicures. All right, you got me, he admitted. But I really just wanted to, get to know you better? As Henry Sterling or as Harry Smith, the unemployed accountant? As both? Neither? I don't know. Henry ran his hand through his hair, messing it up more than he meant to. Look, I've never done this before. Done what? Pretended to be a regular person? Talked to someone without a meeting agenda or contract involved, Henry admitted, surprised by his own honesty. Maya was quiet for a moment, then grabbed the megaphone. Attention, she shouted. I need an assistant today. The position pays invaluable experience and questionable humor. Anyone interested? Henry looked around, confused. What are you doing? I'm offering you the job, Harry, Maya said, with a mischievous smile. If you really want to see this side of life, how about spending a day selling jewelry with me? You're serious? You'll find out in 3, 2, 1. Do you accept? Henry looked at his comfortable life waiting for him across the street. Meetings, charts, decisions that moved millions. Then he looked at Maya, her eyes bright with challenge and fun, and something inside him that had been asleep for years woke up. I accept. Excellent. Maya clapped her hands. Professor Maya is officially on duty. First lesson, how to sell jewelry to people who think they don't need jewelry. Henry spent the next 3 hours finding out he was absolutely terrible at being a street vendor. No. Maya interrupted for the 10th time as Henry tried to approach a customer. You can't start by talking about the great cost-benefit ratio of the pieces. People don't want an executive presentation. They want to feel special. But cost-effectiveness matters, Henry protested. For a refrigerator, maybe. We're selling dreams here, Harry. Passion, romance, that feeling that today they're Beyoncé, even if tomorrow they go back to being accountants. The next customer approached, a woman in her 40s, eyeing the jewelry with some suspicion. Go on, champ, Maya whispered, giving Henry a little push. Hi, Henry began, already sweating. Would you like to see our items? The woman raised an eyebrow. Maya covered her face with her hands. Items? Maya shouted. Items? Oh my goodness, are you selling car parts now? Sorry, Henry turned to the customer. What I meant was, these pieces, chosen, special, might bring out your beauty? The woman started to walk away. Wait, Maya jumped in front. What my friend is trying to say is that we have the perfect piece for you. See these earrings? They give off the exact same powerful energy you do. I bet you're the kind of woman who walks into a room and everyone knows not to mess with you. The woman paused, intrigued. How did you know? Honey, I know a boss when I see one. These earrings? They were made for women who don't wait for permission to shine. And guess what? They're on sale today. Because between us, they've been waiting for someone like you. The woman bought 3 pairs of earrings. After she left, Henry looked at Maya with admiration. How did you do that? It's about connection. Not just a transaction, Maya explained. People want to feel seen, understood. You were talking at them, not with them. Wow, you should give executive talks. And get paid $2 grand to put a room full of CEOs to sleep? No thanks. The day went on, and Henry slowly got better. At one point, he was even using hand gestures while explaining to a young woman why the necklace she was looking at was perfect for that first date when you want to impress, but not look like you're trying too hard. You're learning. Maya cheered when the young woman walked away with the necklace in a gift bag. This is more fun than I expected, Henry admitted. At work, everyone agrees with me. Here, I have to win each person over. Welcome to the real world, Harry Smith, unemployed accountant who somehow knows all about sales strategies and office ergonomics. Henry blushed. I read a lot. Of course you do. Let me guess, your favorite reading is quarterly reports and market analysis? Hey, I read fiction too, Henry defended himself, knowing full well the last non-work thing he read was an operations manual from their last acquisition. What kind of fiction? You know, with characters and storylines. Maya laughed so hard she almost knocked over the jewelry. Harry, sweetheart, that's the most basic definition of fiction I've ever heard. What's next? You'll tell me you like music with beats and melodies? I do like music with beats and melodies, Henry said seriously, making Maya laugh even harder. By mid-afternoon, they'd found their rhythm. Henry drew people in with his trustworthy look, even in cotton clothes. And Maya closed the sales with her natural charm. Surprisingly, they sold more in one afternoon than Maya usually sold in 2 days. You've got talent, Maya said as they counted the money. Too bad it only kicks in when you stop thinking in spreadsheets. And you've got a gift for sales any company would love. Thanks, but I'm not looking to become a corporate robot like you. Well, like you used to be, Harry. Henry laughed. You were closer the first time. They were packing up the last of the jewelry when a group of men in suits walked by, and Henry caught pieces of their conversation. Sterling canceled everything today. Assistants freaking out. Never happened before. Maya didn't seem to notice, but Henry swallowed hard, imagining the chaos he'd left behind. So, Maya said, closing her last box, what did you think of your first day as a street vendor? It was. Henry paused, searching for the right word. Freeing. Wow, big word for an unemployed accountant, she teased. Maya, can I ask you something serious? Sure, but I charge for therapy sessions. Why did you let me help today? You knew I wasn't being honest about who I am. Maya was quiet for a moment, then shrugged. Everyone deserves a second chance. Besides, you looked like you needed this more than I needed an assistant. Needed what? To remember there's a world outside your glass bubble. Henry looked at her, something tightening in his chest. When was the last time someone cared about what he needed, not just what he could provide? Thank you, he said simply. You're welcome, Harry. Or Henry. Or whoever you are when you wake up and look in the mirror. As Henry started walking away, Maya called out, Hey, even if you're a multimillionaire CEO with multiple personality disorder, you're welcome back tomorrow. Same time, same place. Henry turned around, smiling. I'd love that. Just one thing. Maya pointed at him. Next time, get real secondhand clothes. Your executive trying to look like an average guy vibe is way too obvious. And take the tag off your cap. Henry laughed, pulled off the tag, and tossed it in a nearby trash can. As he walked back to his world of glass towers and endless meetings, he felt something he didn't recognize right away. Let's play a little joke on those who only read the comments. Type pizza in the comments. Only those who got this far will understand. Now let's get back to the story. Then he realized what it was: simple happiness. Pure. Not the satisfaction of closing a big deal or hitting financial targets. It was the strange and wonderful feeling of having spent a day just being himself. Or maybe of being seen by someone who saw through the masks. On his phone, 53 missed calls from Jennifer and 12 messages from the board asking for explanations. Henry ignored them all and saved a new contact. Maya, jewelry, and life lessons. He didn't have the nerve to save it as the reason I smiled today. Not yet. The next few days brought a surreal routine to Henry Sterling's life. In the mornings, he was the feared CEO making billion-dollar merger decisions and firing executives without blinking. In the afternoons, he was Harry, the unemployed accountant, learning to wrap paper and make up stories about the origins of each piece of jewelry. Rule number 1 of street vendor life, Maya declared on day 3. Holding up a paper coffee cup like a royal scepter. Cheap coffee is your friend. Fancy coffee is your budget's enemy. Why the enemy? Henry asked, genuinely curious. His morning coffee cost $15 in his building's lobby cafe. Because when you spend $5 on coffee, that's 5 pieces of jewelry you didn't sell. Can you fancy pants executives figure out what percentage that is? Approximately 3.4% of the average daily revenue. Henry answered automatically, then realized what he had just said. Maya paused mid-sip. Okay, who are you really? Neo from the Matrix? Unemployed accountants don't do math in their heads like that. I had a good education? Sure, and I'm a distant cousin of the Queen of England. Come on, tell the truth. Are you some genius hiding from government experiments? Henry laughed, feeling lighter than he had in years. Maybe I've worked with numbers for a long time. Look, Harry or Henry or Matrix or whoever you are, you've got 2 options here, Maya said, pointing a dramatic finger at him. 1. Keep up the mystery accountant act, and I'll spend the next few days coming up with crazier theories about your secret identity. 2. Admit I've already figured you out, and stop trying to convince me you're normal. Can I try being normal? Henry offered with a shy smile. Now we're getting somewhere. Lesson number 2. How to act normal when your bank account has more zeros than your team's Super Bowl score. And how do I do that? Maya waved her arms. First, stop talking about resource optimization when I ask if you want guarana or cola. Second, learn how to complain about everyday stuff. Third, form an opinion about reality shows. Reality shows? Henry frowned. Yes, regular people have opinions on who should win Big Brother, even if they don't watch it. It's required. I watch. Henry stopped, realizing the last thing he'd seen was a stock market analysis on Bloomberg. You watch what? Let me guess. Documentaries on the global economy? Actually, I was going to say I watch. The one with the chefs? Top Chef? Master Chef? Hell's Kitchen? You've got to be specific. The one where the people are always yelling? Maya threw her head back laughing. All of them, Harry. All of them. As they chatted, a couple of tourists walked up, eyeing the earrings. Go for it, champ, Maya whispered. Remember, connection, not transaction. Henry took a deep breath and stepped toward the couple. Hi, these earrings would look great on you. See how they match your eyes? And look at this coincidence, he improvised. They were inspired by the street art just around the corner. The couple looked in the direction he pointed, then back at the earrings. And you know what's most interesting? Henry went on, surprising even himself. The artist who made these earrings was going through a time of personal discovery when she created them. Every curve represents an obstacle she overcame. Maya stared with her mouth open as Henry closed the sale with a completely made-up story about the personal journey behind each piece. Where did that come from? She asked once the couple left, happy with their purchase. I don't know. It just came out? You're kind of lying again. Storytelling, Henry corrected her. It's what we do in executive presentations all the time. Oh, so you admit you're an executive. Henry stopped, realizing he'd slipped. Maya, if I tell you the truth, will you still want to be my friend? First, I want to know, since when are we friends? Aren't we? Maya studied his face for a moment. You really are Henry Sterling, aren't you? The billionaire CEO who stepped on my jewelry and then came back pretending to be someone else? Yes, Henry admitted, bracing for her anger. And you've been coming here every day because? Because, Henry struggled to find the words. because that day was the first time in years that I felt alive. And you treated me like a regular person, not a pile of money or a business contact." Maya stayed quiet so long, Henry thought she might never speak to him again. "Can I ask you something?" she finally said. "Anything." "Do you have any idea how bizarre this is? A billionaire pretending to be a regular guy?" "Commoner," Henry corrected automatically. "Doesn't change the point. Why would you do that?" Henry looked down at his hands, now a little rough after days of handling packaging and jewelry. "Do you know what it's like when your whole life is decided by other people? When you wake up and every minute of your day is already planned? When even your meals are scheduled and your meetings have meetings?" "No," Maya said honestly. "I wake up not knowing if I'll have money for dinner. And I wake up not knowing if I'll have time for dinner. We're both stuck, Maya, just on opposite ends." Maya thought about that, then picked up a golden ring from the collection. "See this ring? It shines differently depending on where you look from. And from one angle it's gold, from another it almost looks bronze. Maybe people are like that too." Deep thoughts from a girl who sells jewelry on the street. Smart words from a billionaire pretending to be an unemployed accountant were even. They laughed together, and Henry felt something in his chest loosen, something he hadn't realized was tight. "Can I keep coming here?" he asked, a little unsure. "Under a few conditions," Maya said, raising a finger like a teacher. "First, no offering money as the solution to everything. Second, no talking about stocks, mergers, or acquisitions unless I ask. Third, if you say cost-benefit ratio one more time, I'll use the megaphone to let all of Manhattan know you cry during dog movies." "I don't." "Do you cry?" "Maybe," Henry admitted, blushing. "Everyone cries, but you know what I meant. And fourth, tell me about your life, the real version, not the cleaned-up one in Forbes." Henry hesitated. In his whole life, he had never shared anything vulnerable with anyone who wasn't a paid therapist. "I don't know if I know how." "It's easy. You open your mouth and let the words come out. Want to practice? I'll go first." Maya sat down on the ground, gesturing for him to do the same. "My name is Maya Santos. I'm 22. My parents came from Brazil when I was 5. My dad died when I was 15, and my mom works 3 jobs so I can study design. I sell jewelry to pay my part because I don't want her working herself to death too." The silence that followed was heavy, but not uncomfortable. "My name is Henry Sterling," he began slowly. "I'm 32. My parents got married for corporate mergers. Literally. My dad saw our family as just another part of the business. I learned to speak Mandarin and German before I ever heard the words, 'I love you.' I never heard those words at home." Maya let out a low whistle. "Wow, and I thought my family was complicated." "Yours sounds full of love, even with all the hardship. Yours sounds full of chances, even with all the coldness." They looked at each other, 2 completely different worlds sitting on the sidewalk in Manhattan, surrounded by handmade jewelry Maya had created with her hands, and that Henry was now learning to sell with his heart. "You know what's funny?" Maya said after a moment. "I always thought having money would fix all life's problems. And I always thought not having to be perfect would fix all of mine," Henry replied. "Looks like we were both wrong." "Looks like it." A customer walked up, interested in a silver bracelet, and Maya went back to work. Henry watched as she turned a simple sale into an experience, making the woman laugh while attaching a little card with a handwritten message, "For days that need a bit more sparkle." "This is what I miss," Henry murmured once they were alone again. "What do you mean?" "Making people happy. At the company, I make shareholders happy when the numbers go up. But that's not the same as seeing someone smile because you made their day better." Maya looked at him with a different expression. "You know you could use your power for good, right? Your money could help a lot of people. I give to charities." "That's not the same as connecting with people. Giving is just writing a check. Connection is this." Maya motioned to the booth, to the people walking by, to the organized chaos of New York street life. Henry watched an older woman stop to admire a necklace, then walk away mumbling about prices. Without thinking, he stood up. "Ma'am," he called. "This necklace, it was made by a local artist, one of a kind. And between you and me, I think you've got just the kind of personality it's been looking for." The woman came back, curious. "Looking for?" Handmade pieces have a soul of their own. This one's been a little lonely, waiting for someone with a bit of life experience to give it meaning. Maya watched impressed as Henry continued his unique approach, part business, part poetic, completely unexpected. The woman ended up buying not just the necklace but also a bracelet for her granddaughter. "Where did you come up with that?" Maya asked once they were alone again. "Life experience? The soul of the piece?" "I don't know, it just felt true." "Henry Sterling, I think you've got a hidden talent for selling jewelry. Or maybe I just have a great teacher." The day kept going like that, with Henry and Maya finding their own rhythm. He helped organize the display while she explained design. She walked him through the techniques for each piece, and he used basic logistics to improve the layout of the booth. "This bracelet," Maya said, picking up a piece with braided threads, "took 6 hours to make. I use a technique my grandma taught me when I was a kid." 6 hours? Henry did the math quickly. "That's about $3 an hour based on the sale price." There goes the executive again. It's not about money per hour. It's about creating something unique. "Sorry, it's automatic." Henry picked up the bracelet, studying the detailed work. "It's beautiful. Really, I can see how much time you put into it. Now you're getting it." As the sun started to set, painting the sky with orange tones, Maya began packing up the jewelry. "This has been my best sales day in months," she said, counting bills. "You definitely have a magic touch with customers." "Maybe because I understand the value of having something one of a kind," says the man who probably owns a watch collection worth more than my college degree. 3 watches, Henry admitted, "and you're right about the value. But watching you work, I realized I've never created anything with my own hands." "That's kind of sad," Maya said honestly. "Creating something is therapeutic. It's like leaving a mark on the world that's just yours. Would you teach me? Not to sell or make a profit, just to create?" Maya stopped what she was doing and looked at him. "You really want to learn? More than I've wanted anything in a long time. All right, come early tomorrow. Bring clean hands and a little extra humility. And Henry, thank you for being honest with me. Thank you for giving me a chance." As Henry walked back to his apartment on the Upper East Side, his hands stained with silver and his heart lighter than it had been in years, his phone buzzed with dozens of messages. "Mr. Sterling, where are you?" "Jennifer. The Tokyo meeting was a mess." "Executive assistant." "Your father called 3 times." "Personal secretary." For a moment, Henry thought about replying, diving back into a world of obligations and expectations. Then he looked at his dirty hands, smiled, and put the phone on silent. For the first time in his life, Henry Sterling was exactly where he wanted to be. And tomorrow, he'd learn to make a piece of jewelry with his own hands. The day started off well. Henry showed up early, just like Maya had asked, carrying a coffee for her, from the same cheap place she always went to, and wearing jeans that actually looked worn. He had even used sandpaper on them to give them that authentic look. "Well, look at this," Maya laughed when she saw him. "Mr. Billion's trying to look like Mr. Blue Collar. At least you took the tags off." "I took your lesson seriously," Henry smiled, handing over the coffee. "Ready for my first jewelry-making class." Maya had brought a small box with basic tools, pliers, silver wire, colorful beads, and a few small stones. "Let's start with something simple, a basic bracelet." "It's harder than it looks," she warned, showing him how to hold the pliers. "If I can negotiate with Japanese shareholders, I think I can bend a piece of wire," Henry said confidently. 20 minutes later, he had 3 fingers with small cuts, a mess of tangled silver wire, and 0 progress. "Okay, maybe it is like negotiating with Japanese shareholders," he admitted, defeated. "The difference is, you can't delegate to an assistant," Maya laughed, helping untangle the mess. "First rule of jewelry making, patience. The metal doesn't care about your schedule." As they worked, a familiar figure came into Henry's view. Jennifer, his assistant, was walking briskly down the sidewalk, her face set with professional determination. "Uh-oh," Henry whispered. "What's wrong?" Maya followed his gaze. "Who's that woman who looks like she swallowed a ruler?" "My assistant." "Oh." Maya set the megaphone aside. "Busted?" Before Henry could answer, Jennifer had spotted him. Her pace quickened, her heels clicking on the pavement like a countdown. "Mr. Sterling," her voice sliced through the air like a sharp blade. Passers-by stopped to watch. Are you selling handmade jewelry? Henry stood up slowly, still holding Maya's tools. Jennifer, I can explain. The board is in an emergency meeting. 3 pending deals, 2 company presidents waiting on a callback, and you're here playing. She waved toward Maya's stand. Hippie vendor? Hey, Maya stood up too. First, I'm not a hippie. Second, he's learning an honest trade. Third, who are you to talk to him like that? Jennifer looked at Maya like she was a stain on expensive clothing. I'm his executive assistant. I keep his professional life running. Well, you're doing a lousy job because he looked happier bending wires than he has in days, Maya shot back. Happy? Jennifer laughed, a humorless sound. Mr. Sterling, with all due respect, your happiness is not my job. Your company is. Maybe it should be, Henry said quietly, and the silence that followed was deafening. Jennifer blinked like he had just spoken a foreign language. Excuse me? I said, maybe it should be. When was the last time you cared about my happiness? Or yours? That's not relevant, isn't it? Henry set the tools down and looked at his assistant of 5 years, really seeing her for the first time. Jennifer, when was the last time you had a real day off? I like my job. That's not what I asked. Maya watched the exchange with growing interest. This side of Henry was new, firm, but kind. Mr. Sterling, Jennifer tried to regain her professional tone. Sterling Enterprises can't operate with you, unavailable. It did yesterday when I was here. It did the day before. Maybe it's time we asked if I really need to micromanage every decision. Your father called. Jennifer played her strongest card. 3 times. Henry saw Maya watching his reaction. For days, he'd just been Harry to her. The out-of-place exec learning how to sell jewelry, the man surprised by the comfort of a $2 coffee. Now his whole world was catching up. Tell my father I'll call him at 3 this afternoon, Henry said calmly, and reschedule all meetings until tomorrow. Sir? That's not a request, Jennifer. His assistant looked from Henry to Maya, then back to Henry. Something in her expression shifted. Recognition, maybe? Or resignation? Very well, she said, but you'll have to answer for this to the board. I've always had to answer to the board, Jennifer. I always will. But today, I'm learning something else. Jennifer turned to leave, then paused and looked at Maya. Take good care of him. He's more important than you realize. After she left, Maya turned to Henry. So your dad keeps calling, the board's waiting, and I've got the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company learning to make bracelets in my booth. Does that change anything? Maya studied his face for a long moment. Honestly, I don't know, but I want you to answer one question, totally honestly. Okay. Why are you doing this? And don't say to feel alive. I need a real answer. What's going on in your life that made you come here? Henry sat down on his little makeshift box, looking at his hands. 3 weeks ago, I was in a meeting about buying a company in Germany. 150 people were going to lose their jobs, and I was analyzing whether the human impact was worth the efficiency gain. That's when I realized I was talking about people like they were just numbers on a spreadsheet. He paused, picking up one of the rough stones. I left the meeting and went to the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and didn't recognize the person there. It wasn't me anymore, just a role I had played for so long that I forgot who I was without it. And then you stepped on my jewelry, Maya said. And then I stepped on your jewelry. And for the first time in years, someone didn't react to my title or my bank account. You reacted to me, to the man who was being a complete jerk. Maya sat down beside him. Henry, I get what it's like to feel stuck in a life that doesn't make you happy. God knows there are days I work 3 jobs and still can't pay all the bills. But you have choices I can only dream of. And that's what kills me, Henry said. I have all these choices and somehow I picked the most miserable one, then pick a different one. Is it that simple? Nothing is simple. But yes, that's the choice. They sat in silence for a moment before Henry asked, Can I keep learning how to make jewelry? On one condition. What's that? The next time your robot assistant shows up, you introduce her to me before she starts with the whole Mr. Sterling this, Mr. Sterling that. And maybe buy her a coffee too. She looks like she needs one. Henry laughed, and it was the kind of laugh that came from a deep, honest place. Deal. Now, can we get back to this impossible bracelet? Impossible? You're talking to the girl who earned 3 college credits in applied math just by selling jewelry on the street? Nothing is impossible if you're patient. The rest of the day was a strange mix of normal and absurd. Henry actually got better at the jewelry making. He made a crooked but recognizable bracelet and even sold a piece to a lady who said she loved his young and unpolished energy. Between sales, he checked his phone, answering a few essential calls right from the sidewalk, while Maya paused her work to laugh at the expressions of people on the other end of the line. Clearly surprised by the city noise in the background. "They probably think you've been kidnapped," she said during a call about a potential acquisition. "Or that I've finally lost my mind," Henry whispered, covering the phone. "Maybe you're finally finding it." As the sun began to set, Henry helped Maya pack up the booth for the next day. His fingers didn't hurt as much anymore, and he was starting to understand the rhythm of the creative process. "Will you come back tomorrow?" Maya asked as they packed the last box. "If you'll have me." Henry Sterling is officially invited to more life lessons with Maya Santos. Tuition fee, 1 coffee, and more stories about your strange world of the super rich. That's a price I can afford. When they said goodbye, Henry stopped at the corner and called Jennifer. "Yeah, I know I'm impossible," he said as soon as she answered. "And about tomorrow, cancel everything until noon." "And Jennifer?" "Yes, sir?" "Thanks for caring, and take 1 hour for yourself tomorrow morning. Don't call me, don't check emails. Just be a person for an hour, not my assistant." There was a long silence on the line. "Thank you, sir." It's Henry. When it's just us, it's just Henry. After he hung up, he looked at the little business card Maya had drawn for him that day. A small, sketched bracelet with his name and beginner jewelry student. On the back, she had written, "For when you forget, you're just a regular person too." Henry laughed to himself at the corner of Fifth Avenue, holding that handmade card that meant more to him than any multi-million-dollar contract he'd ever signed. Back at his 3-bedroom apartment overlooking Central Park, he put the card in his wallet, right next to his corporate ID. 2 worlds, 2 versions of himself. For the first time, it didn't feel like a betrayal. It felt like growth. The board meeting was held on the 50th floor of the Sterling Tower. 12 senior executives sat around a table that probably cost more than Maya's car, with Henry at the head, still showing small cuts on his fingers that even gloves couldn't completely hide. Henry, his father, Marcus Sterling, began with the voice that had dominated boardrooms for 4 decades. "Do you want to explain your recent hobbies?" "I'm learning how to make jewelry, Dad." A murmur spread across the table. "Jewelry?" Marcus repeated, as if the word were an alien concept. "From a street vendor?" "From an artist and designer," Henry corrected. "She's an art student at Pratt Institute." "And how does that affect your work?" "It doesn't. In fact, it's giving me a fresh perspective on creativity and design that could benefit our luxury division." Richard Chen, the CFO, flipped through some papers. "The numbers don't lie, Henry. Our productivity has dropped 12% in the past 2 weeks." "Correction," Jennifer interrupted, walking into the room with a stack of reports. "Our decision-making productivity has dropped, but the quality of our decisions has increased. 2 acquisitions we would have approved were rejected after a more thorough analysis, saving the company $8 million in potential losses." Everyone looked at her. Jennifer never interrupted meetings. "And how do you know this?" Marcus asked. "Because when Mr. Sterling isn't micromanaging every decision, we're forced to do a more thorough analysis before it gets to him," she answered calmly. "Maybe the company could benefit from a CEO who isn't constantly available." Henry looked at his assistant with newfound respect. Jennifer had defended his position without him asking. "Interesting theory," Marcus conceded. "But that doesn't explain the time lost with craft work." "Actually," Henry stood up, walking to the window that overlooked Manhattan, "I'd like to propose something to the board." "What?" "That we hire Maya Santos as a design consultant for our Sterling Artisan line." The silence was complete. "You want to hire a street vendor?" someone asked from the back of the table. "I want to hire a talented designer who understands the market in a way our current team doesn't. She creates unique pieces that sell not for their status, but for the emotion behind them. It's exactly what our new line needs." "That's crazy," Marcus declared. "Maybe. Or maybe it's genius," She has an artistic vision, understands operational costs because she lives with them, and has a loyal customer base that buys based on story and connection, not brand. The debate that followed was intense. Henry argued with a passion he hadn't felt in years, presenting data on market trends, showing photos of Maya's pieces, explaining her unique sales philosophy. When he finally left the meeting, 3 hours later, he had a hesitant approval for a 3-month experimental consultancy for Maya. Jennifer met him in the hallway. "That was impressive, boss. Thanks for defending me in there. I just told the truth, and Henry, she's lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have met her. Same here." That afternoon, Henry found Maya at her usual booth. She was arguing with a man in a suit over the price of a necklace. $20 is ridiculous for this, the man complained. "Then don't buy it," Maya responded flatly. "There's a Walmart 2 blocks down." "Maya," Henry intervened gently, "is this necklace one of the pieces that uses the technique you taught me yesterday?" "Yes, with the double knots." "Why?" Henry turned to the potential customer. "Actually, this process takes about 4 hours of manual work. That's about $5 an hour if you only consider production time, not including materials, experience, and creativity. Do you think $5 an hour is ridiculous?" The man hesitated. "Well, when you put it that way. And this doesn't even consider that you're getting a one-of-a-kind piece, handmade by a talented artist who is funding her education by creating art. $20 is actually a very reasonable price." The man bought the necklace. "Where did that come from?" Maya asked when they were alone. "I just applied business logic to justify the real value of your work." "Henry Sterling, you're becoming the salesman of my dreams." "Actually," Henry took a deep breath, "I have a proposal for you. If you're offering to pay me to stop selling on the street, we've already talked about that." "No, it's a real job." Maya paused in the middle of rearranging her necklaces. "What?" "I presented your art to my board today. They agreed to offer you a 3-month consultancy to develop our new Sterling artisan line." "You did what?" "You'd be your own boss, create unique designs, have access to all the company's resources, including a salary that would cover your tuition and still leave you with—" Wait. Maya raised her hands. "What exactly are you offering me?" "A consultancy contract to design a new signed jewelry line for Sterling Luxury Dynasty." Maya was silent for a long moment. "Why?" "Because you're talented. Because your vision is exactly what we need. Because— No. Why really? Don't tell me it's because I'm talented. Tell me the truth." Henry looked into her eyes, that honesty of his that had become his trademark with Maya. "Because you changed my perspective on everything. And maybe I want to give you the chance to change others too. And what if I don't want to work for a company like yours? It would be with total creative freedom, your own hours, your own space. You just use our resources and distribution network." Maya walked in small circles, thinking, "I need to think about it. Of course, no pressure." "Henry?" "Yes? If I accept, things are going to change between us." "I know. We'll be seeing each other in different environments. There will be meetings, contracts, corporate expectations. You'll go back to being Mr. Sterling instead of Harry." "Maya, you saw Henry Sterling today. In the meeting, I was still me. You didn't turn me into Harry. You helped me find parts of Henry that had been lost." She nodded slowly. "Can I still sell here on slow mornings?" "Why not? And you'll still come learn how to make jewelry?" "If you'll let me. And the coworkers won't treat me like— If anyone disrespects you, they'll have to answer to me. And then to Jennifer." Maya laughed. "She's scary." "She's more than scary. She's protective." A group of Japanese tourists passed by, stopping to look at the jewelry. Maya automatically switched to sales mode, and Henry watched as she worked her magic. When they left with a bag full of purchases, Maya returned to her contemplation. "How much?" "The contract?" "Yeah." Henry mentioned a number. Maya's eyes widened. 3 months? "To start, with the possibility of extension." Maya looked at her small stand, at the carefully organized jewelry, at Henry waiting for her response. "One condition." "What's that?" "If you try to interfere with my creativity or turn me into a corporate brand clone, I'll go back to this sidewalk. No regrets, no warning." "Agreed. And I want part of the contract to include donations to art programs for low-income youth. We'll include that in the contract." Maya extended her hand, dirty with silver and varnish. Deal, Mr. Sterling. Henry, he corrected, shaking her hand. Even in formal meetings, for you it's still Henry. You're a strange executive, did you know that? I'm learning to be a complete person, thanks to a stubborn jewelry seller who shouts about promotions with a pink megaphone. Is that the best description of me you could come up with? It's the most accurate. Maya smiled, and there was something different about it. Less guard, more challenge. It was the beginning of something neither of them could name yet. When do I start? Whenever you want. We have a design room waiting for you, but you can start here if you prefer. We can call it the field research phase. You can be convincingly legal when you put your mind to it. I had a great teacher teaching me about storytelling and sales. That evening, when Henry returned home, he found a voicemail from his mom. I heard from your father about your new initiative. Sunday dinner? I'd love to meet the artist who caused such a stir. Henry laughed, saving the message. He was curious to see how Maya would handle his family. In fact, he was curious to see how his family would handle Maya. But first, he had a contract for Jennifer to prepare. A contract unlike any Sterling luxury dynasty had ever offered. A contract that included a very specific clause: the consultant's right to continue selling independently on the sidewalk whenever she wished, with a small space dedicated to her art in the company's facilities, where she could later even train other young artists interested in doing the same. It was unorthodox, it was risky, it was completely different from anything Henry would have approved 3 weeks ago. Maya's first day as a consultant was, in her words, like stepping into a spaceship piloted by robots in suits. The Sterling Luxury Dynasty design team was divided between curiosity and open skepticism. A young designer who had literally come from the streets proposing ideas for a luxury brand. Your space, Jennifer said, opening the door to a room with large panoramic windows, professional workbenches, and state-of-the-art jewelry-making equipment. Maya whistled low. This is bigger than my apartment, and it has a view, and no truck noise. Mr. Sterling was specific about your needs. There's also a small kitchen with snacks, unlimited coffee supply, and, Jennifer pointed to the corner, your pink megaphone in case you miss street sales. Maya laughed, genuinely touched. He thought of everything. He thinks of everything, especially when it's something important to him. The first few hours were a mix of corporate orientation. Where's the bathroom? How to use the email system. Formal introductions. Maya Santos, our new design consultant, with varying tones of false politeness and pure experimentation with the new materials. Henry showed up in the late afternoon, finding Maya surrounded by sketches, tools scattered around, and 3 different prototypes. How's your first day in the corporate world? He asked. Weird, exciting, a little scary, and I'll be honest. She held up a precision tool. These things are on another level. I could create details I never dreamed of before. Is the team being welcoming? Maya made a face. For the most part, there are a couple of designers who clearly think I'm just a temporary experiment from the boss that's going to fail. And you? I think they're going to be surprised. A knock on the door interrupted the conversation. Jennifer entered, her expression more serious than usual. Mr. Sterling, your father is here, and he brought company? Miss Victoria Wellington. Henry froze. Victoria? Who's Victoria? Maya asked, noticing the immediate change in the room's atmosphere. Jennifer hesitated, looking at Henry. Victoria is a long story, Henry said diplomatically. A fiancé, Jennifer clarified without diplomacy. A future fiancé. Engaged by his father 6 months ago. What? Maya exploded. It was more of a business alliance than a marriage, Henry tried to explain quickly. It's not official. I never agreed to it formally. But you also never publicly denied it, Jennifer added. And now she's in the lobby with her father and a team of advisors. Maya rubbed her face with her hands. Okay, let me see if I got this straight. You're pretending to have a fiancé? More like tolerating family plans for an advantageous merger marriage, Henry murmured. In English, please. It's a business marriage my father is forcing. 2 family companies. It would create an empire, a strategic merger. And do you have an opinion on that? Yes, Henry answered firmly. I think it's outdated and ridiculous. But Victoria is a good person who's also being pressured by her family. We kind of made a silent pact to delay it indefinitely. Until now, Jennifer commented. It seems like the parents are getting impatient. Maya stood up suddenly. Okay, I need to process this. You have a business fiancé walking in here right now, and I'm here making jewelry while you're doing what exactly? Avoiding answering why you're still single? Maya? No. You know what's funny? I thought you were different, that you were really changing. But this is what rich people do, right? They play with other people's lives to close deals. It's not like that. So what is it? Explain, Henry. And this time, the whole truth. Henry looked at Jennifer, who discreetly left the room, closing the door. Victoria Wellington is the daughter of the owner of Wellington Diamonds. Our parents went to school together, always talked about merging the companies. When my grandfather died, he left a clause in his will about strengthening family alliances. My father took that as a green light to arrange my marriage. And you agreed to that? I prolonged it. I avoided it. I made excuses. Victoria did the same. We've met a few times, made it clear to each other that we were pawns in our parents' game. We agreed to drag it out until our families gave up. And has it worked so far? So far. Maya walked around the room, processing it. How much longer do you plan to keep this charade going? I don't plan on keeping anything. I'm going downstairs now to clearly tell them there's not going to be any marriage. Because of me? Not because of you. Because of me. Because I'm tired of letting other people decide my life. Because for the first time in years, I've felt like I'm in charge of my choices. Maya stopped, looking directly at him. Are you sure about that? Because it seems like a big decision to make because of a few sidewalk jewelry lessons. It's not because of the jewelry lessons, it's because of who I've become since I started going to those lessons. A long silence filled the room. Okay, Maya finally spoke. Let's go. What? I'm coming with you. I want to meet this business fiancé and see how this works. Maya, this could get complicated. My whole life is complicated, Henry. I'm just saying that if you're going to break with the traditions of your glass world, you shouldn't do it alone. And if I don't like what I see, then I'll have learned something important about you. And what if I can't face my father? Maya grabbed her purse. Then I'll do it for you, and you'll still have learned something important about yourself. Here's the translation in a casual, simple, and clear style. When they reached the lobby, Marcus Sterling was in full CEO mode, talking to a well-dressed blonde woman who was clearly Victoria. Next to them was a team of assistants with tablets and a group of press members who had apparently been alerted. Ah, finally, Marcus said when he spotted Henry. Victoria's been waiting. Victoria turned, and Henry immediately saw the panic in her eyes. She didn't want to be here any more than he did. Henry, she said carefully, what a surprise to see you. Victoria, he replied formally, then looked at Maya. I'd like to introduce Maya Santos, our new design consultant. Victoria extended her hand politely, but Maya didn't shake it immediately. Instead, she looked directly at Marcus Sterling. So, you're the father who arranges marriages, she said bluntly. The lobby went silent. And you are? Marcus asked, raising an eyebrow. The reality your son is learning about, and also the person who's going to say what everyone here is too afraid to say. Maya, Henry tried to intervene, but she kept going. This marriage is a farce. If you look into their eyes, you'll see two people who would rather be anywhere else. And if your companies depend on a forced marriage to thrive, maybe the problem is with the businesses, not with the kids. With all due respect, one of the assistants said, you don't understand the complexities of... Complexities? A man and a woman being forced to marry for a brand merger is complexity? Maya turned to Victoria. Sorry for being blunt, but do you want to marry him? Victoria blinked, nervously looking around before answering. It's complicated. It's simple. Yes or no? No, Victoria finally admitted quietly. And you? Maya turned to Henry. No, he answered more firmly. So what's the problem? Marcus Sterling was red with anger. The situation is not as simple as you make it sound. There's generations of planning, agreements, expectations. Expectations made by who? Maya shot back. By you, the parents, who decided that your kids are extensions of the business? That love and compatibility are luxuries rich people can't afford in the name of profit? Miss Santos, Marcus said in his most intimidating voice, I'd suggest you improve your understanding of how family businesses work before. Dad, Henry interrupted, his voice echoing through the lobby. Enough. Everyone turned to look at him. Maya's right. Victoria and I don't want to get married. We never did. And it's time to stop this charade. Victoria nodded, visibly relieved. I agree. Thank you, she murmured to Maya. Have you both lost your minds? Marcus exploded. Documents have already been prepared. The press has been invited. Then cancel it all, Henry said calmly. Have it canceled. And the merger? We'll find other ways to collaborate commercially if it makes sense, but not through a forced marriage. Victoria turned to her own group of assistants. Confirm with my father. There will be no wedding, and our company can also collaborate commercially with Sterling without me having to marry anyone. The commotion that followed involved phones being used furiously, multiple conversations overlapping, and journalists trying to capture every moment. In the midst of the chaos, Maya grabbed Henry's arm. No pressure, but this is where you either confirm what you just said, or you backtrack and return to your world of family deals. Maya, Victoria suddenly spoke up, walking over. Thank you for having the courage to say that. I've been trying to find a polite way out for months. You're welcome. Polite wasn't working, apparently. Victoria laughed, a real laugh. You're a jewelry designer? That's right. And you're a hostage of a family corporation, Maya responded with a smile. Until 5 minutes ago, Victoria smiled back. Now I'm just Victoria, a woman who's finally going to get to choose who she dates. The two women looked at each other, and to Henry's surprise, they started laughing. This is surreal, he murmured. Welcome to reality, Maya said, where sometimes people act like humans instead of pawns in their parents' chess games. Marcus Sterling approached, clearly still angry but trying to keep his professional composure. We'll talk about this at home, Henry. No, Dad, we'll talk about it here if you want to talk. I'm 32 years old. It's time to stop treating me like a corporate asset. You're the heir to an empire. I'm your son, and I deserve to be treated like one. A long silence followed until Victoria spoke again. Mr. Sterling, with all due respect, maybe it's time we consider collaborations based on merit, not forced marriage. Our companies could work together as allies, not a family merger. Marcus studied the daughter of his old business partner. Maybe you're right, he reluctantly admitted. And you, he turned to Maya, clearly have an influence on my son. If you're responsible for all these changes, I hope you're ready to deal with the consequences. I'm not an influence, Maya replied firmly. I'm a catalyst. Henry already had all of this inside him. He just needed a reason to let it out. With that, the most impossible situation Henry had ever faced was resolved. Not with shouting or firings or threats, but with raw honesty and a jewelry salesperson who refused to play the game of appearances. When they finally returned to Maya's office, she sank into her chair, exhausted. That was intense, she admitted. Thank you, Henry said simply. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. I couldn't work with you every day knowing you were living a lie. And now? Now you do real work, make real deals, without political lunches or strategic marriages, and I design jewelry that might have nothing to do with your perfect corporate image. My perfect corporate image just cracked in the lobby of my own building. Good. Yes, Henry agreed, feeling lighter than he had ever felt in his life. Very good. Outside the window, New York continued its relentless pace, but inside that room, something had changed fundamentally. Henry Sterling, CEO of Sterling Luxury Dynasty, had made his first purely personal choice in public. And the only person in the room who didn't seem surprised was the woman selling jewelry with a pink megaphone. 3 weeks after the lobby scene, Maya had found her rhythm at Sterling. Mornings were for creation, afternoons for implementation, and evenings. Well, occasionally, she still set up her original stand to stay connected with what she called the real life. Henry had made it a habit to show up after work to help, still dressed in his expensive suit, now accepted as a curious but familiar figure by the local vendors. You have to see what I've created, Maya said on any given Thursday, dragging Henry into her design room at the end of the day. On her main desk was a collection Henry hadn't seen before, 8 pieces that seemed to capture light and shadow in impossible ways. The Two Worlds collection, Maya announced proudly. They are. Each piece represents different aspects of someone's journey between 2 different worlds, she explained, picking up a ring. This one is first impressions. Hard on the outside, soft on the inside, reminding that first judgments aren't always accurate. Henry studied the ring, recognizing elements of both his world and hers. "And this is collision," she continued, showing a set of earrings combining polished metal with rougher elements. "When different worlds collide, they can create something unexpected." One by one, she showed each piece: learning, transformation, choice, truth, courage, and finally, new beginning. "Maya, is this about us? About the journey?" she corrected. "But yes, inspired by what happened between the sidewalk vendor and the Ice Emperor." Henry picked up the last piece, a unique necklace where two different metals intertwined to form a new pattern. "You're an extraordinary artist," he said with genuine admiration. "And you're an inspiring model for the Before and After series," she laughed. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "If this collection is a success, what changes?" Maya sat at her work desk. "Honestly, I don't know. I've never had a platform like this for my art. Sterling has international distribution, premium marketing, luxury market reach. You'll become famous, maybe, or maybe it'll be a total failure and I'll go back to the pink megaphone." "It won't be a failure. You believe in me a lot. I believe in what I see, and what I see is that you have something our industry lost: authenticity." Maya studied his face, something changing in her expression. "Henry, there's something I need to tell you." "What?" "When you showed up that morning 3 weeks ago, all stiff and awkward trying to be normal, I already knew who you were. Your face was on all the business magazines." Henry blinked. "You knew? All along?" "All along. And I let you continue your charade because I was curious about who Henry would be without the corporate masks." "And then?" "What did you discover?" "That Henry is so much more interesting than Henry Sterling." A comfortable silence settled between them as Henry processed this revelation. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" "Because you needed to get there on your own. I couldn't take off your masks. I could only give you a mirror to see all sides of yourself." Henry looked at the scattered jewelry pieces, each one telling a part of the journey he had lived through over the past few weeks. "How long have you been working on this collection?" "Since the day you blinked at my jewelry." "That long? I had a feeling you'd be important." Before Henry could respond, the door opened abruptly. Jennifer entered, flustered in a way Henry had never seen before. "Sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation." "What kind of situation?" "The kind that involves corporate espionage, stolen designs, and our top market news," Jennifer replied through gritted teeth. "What?" Maya and Henry spoke together. "Our rival, Crimson Luxury, just announced the launch of a new collection, the Two Worlds collection. Designs identical to yours, Maya, and they're saying it was you who stole their designs." Maya's face drained of color. "How is that possible? No one has seen these pieces except—" She looked at Henry, and he saw the realization dawning in her eyes, the suspicion, the fear that maybe their worlds really were too different. "Maya, I didn't—" "Who else knew about this collection?" she asked, her voice different now, colder, more distant. "No one. I mean, just who, Henry? Your family? Your executives? Your assistant?" "No, but are there cameras in the building? Security systems that could have captured my sketches?" Jennifer intervened carefully. "To be fair, our security is extensive. Anyone with access." "Access I gave her," Henry exploded. "I told her to have full access to any areas she needed. And apparently someone took advantage of that," Maya said, her voice still cold. "The question is who and why." Henry looked at Jennifer. "Start an investigation. Now. I want to know every person who had access to this area, every login in the systems. Every." "Henry," Maya interrupted, "you need to consider one possibility." "What?" "That maybe I was a mistake. That bringing an outsider into your protected world was a naive idea." "No, that's exactly what they want you to think. They? Whoever stole your designs. Crimson Luxury has been our rival for years. They'd do anything to sabotage us." Maya grabbed her bag. "I need to think. Maya, please, don't let this destroy what we have, Henry." She turned to face him. "Because right now it feels like I'm just a consultant whose creative property was stolen in your company. How does your world decide to punish or promote?" "It's not like that." "It's not? Then explain how it works when outsiders clash with insider traditions." Henry felt everything he had built with Maya slipping through his fingers. "Prove who did this. I swear to you, we'll find the truth." And what if the truth is that your corporate world will never accept me, that I'm always going to be the street vendor who doesn't belong? Then we change the world, Henry said with quiet conviction. Maya paused at the door. Or maybe I just go back to mine. After she left, Henry and Jennifer were silent. She has a point, Jennifer said hesitantly. Corporate espionage usually comes from the inside, someone with privileged access. Then find them. I don't care what you have to do or how much it costs. Henry? Yeah? You're in love with her. It wasn't a question, and Henry didn't try to deny it. Yeah, he admitted, and I'm not going to lose her over some corporate thieves who think they can destroy what we've built. Then let's fight back. How? The same way we always fought back, by the legal rules, but also being smart about them. And Henry? Maybe it's time to consider who really has your loyalty in this company. Alone in Maya's design room, Henry looked at the Two Worlds collection. Each piece represented a journey he and Maya had taken together. And he wasn't going to let anyone, corporate rivals, family pressure, or Maya's own insecurities destroy that. Picking up his phone, he called someone he hadn't spoken to in years, Victoria Wellington. Victoria? It's Henry. I need your help with something unofficial, and it involves finding out what Crimson Luxury really knows about security systems. Sometimes, he thought, you have to use every connection you have, even ones that came from traditions you just rejected. Let's make a joke for those who only read the comments. Type Coca-Cola in the comments. Only those who got this far will understand. Now let's continue the story. The war to protect Maya and the future they could have had only just begun. The corporate war, Henry declared, lasted only 3 days before exploding in the press in a way no one had predicted. Look at this, Jennifer said, throwing magazines onto Henry's desk on Monday morning. The headlines ranged from CEO Sterling's romance with employee to design scandal, romance, or theft. The worst one was a grainy but recognizable photo of Henry and Maya laughing together at her street booth, with the caption, "Billionaire plays commoner while corporate secrets are leaked." How did they get this photo? Henry demanded. The revelations just keep getting worse, Jennifer continued. Crimson leaked emails supposedly from you to the press, suggesting that you gave Maya privileged access for personal reasons. Henry felt his anger rising. Emails I never sent. Obviously forged, but convincing, and there's more. What more could there be? Maya was photographed leaving the building yesterday with a box. The media is interpreting it as resignation or dismissal. Speculation ranges from a broken romance to money laundering. Henry immediately grabbed his phone, dialing Maya. Voicemail. She hasn't answered since yesterday, Jennifer gently informed him. Where is she? I don't know. She hasn't responded to messages and wasn't seen at her usual booth this morning. A cold chill settled in Henry's stomach. Find her. Use any resources necessary. Hire a private investigator, whatever it takes. I've already done that. They're reporting back in an hour. What about the investigation into the leak? Victoria found something interesting. There's an IT employee who made a suspicious deposit 3 days ago. Nathan Rodriguez, he's been here for 2 years. Bring him here, now. While waiting, Henry tried to understand how everything had fallen apart so quickly. In less than a week, Maya had gone from creative partner to, what, a fugitive? A suspect? Nathan Rodriguez entered the room 20 minutes later, sweating profusely. Mr. Sterling, I can explain, then explain, and be very careful with your next sentence. I received an offer, $50,000 to copy some files and make sure certain people had access to the systems. Which people? Crimson Luxury, but it wasn't to steal designs. They said they just wanted market information. And you believed them? Henry's voice was dangerously low. They paid me more in 1 week than I make here in a year, sir. I have a family. Just like all the people whose jobs you've put at risk, including Maya. About that, Nathan hesitated. There was more to the deal. Go on. They asked me to install specific monitoring software in her room. Not just files, but, he swallowed hard, temporary cameras, to photograph work in progress. The silence that followed was suffocating. You're telling me, Henry spoke each word distinctly, that you facilitated direct visual espionage on her designs? Yes, sir. And then you sold that information to the press to create a scandal? No, I think it was Crimson. I was just passing information to them. I didn't know they would. You didn't know? Henry exploded. You invaded an employee's privacy, sold her work, and now you're acting like you're the victim? Mr. Sterling, I'm sorry. Save your apologies. How are you going to fix this? I can testify against Crimson. I have emails, recordings of the negotiations. They threatened my family if I didn't cooperate fully. Henry studied the man in front of him. Pathetic, scared, but maybe useful. Jennifer, call our lawyers. We're suing Crimson for corporate espionage and invasion of privacy, and get protection for Nathan's family. Yes, sir. As for you, Henry turned to Nathan, you will cooperate fully, and when this is over, you're fired, but with a recommendation letter that will ensure you find work elsewhere. I thank you, sir. Don't thank me. Do your job. And Nathan, if you lied about anything you just told me, I will personally ensure you never work in tech again. After Nathan left, Henry sat heavily in his chair. Now we need to find Maya, he told Jennifer, before the press makes this even worse. At that moment, his phone rang. Unknown number. Henry Sterling. Mr. Sterling? The voice was familiar but distant. This is Maya's mother. Henry's heart stopped. Where is she? Is she okay? She's not okay, but she's safe. She came home yesterday, very upset. I've never seen her like this. The voice trembled. Please, can I speak with her? She said she doesn't want to talk with anyone from the company. But I thought you should know. The news, they're saying terrible things about my girl. None of that is true, ma'am. Your daughter is talented and honest. We are the ones who failed to protect her work. Can I trust you to take care of my Maya? I'd give anything to be able to do that. A long silence followed, then a sigh. She said something about going back to street sales, like maybe she belongs there, not in your world. Could you pass a message to her? Maybe. Tell her we're fighting to prove the truth. Tell her. Tell her she was right about the two worlds colliding, but that doesn't mean they can't exist together. I'll try. After hanging up, Henry felt more lost than he ever had. Every decision he'd made since meeting Maya seemed to have led to this moment. Her hurt and running, him fighting alone against a system he should have known how to navigate. Henry, Jennifer said hesitantly, you might need to consider making a public statement. Saying what? That I fell for an employee and accidentally exposed her to corporate warfare. Maybe saying that you believe her. Publicly, no matter what it costs you politically. Henry stared out the window at the city. Somewhere out there, Maya was doubting everything they had built together. Prepare the statement, he decided, and schedule a press conference. If we're going to fight, let's fight openly. What if it backfires? Then I'll go down fighting, but I'm not going to let Maya think she's alone in this. But as Jennifer went off to organize the conference, Henry couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. The timing of the leak, the precision of the media attack, the way everything aligned. Picking up the phone again, he called Victoria. I need one more favor. Something you're not going to like. What now, Henry? I want you to investigate my own company. Not externally. Internally. Someone knew exactly when and where to hit, and Nathan isn't smart enough to orchestrate all this on his own. Are you suspecting someone inside your inner circle? I'm suspecting everyone, because right now, the only person I trust completely is the one who doesn't want to talk to me. Okay, but Henry? Yes? If this is about more than business for you, you need to prepare for the possibility of losing everything. Not just the company, everything. Henry looked at the photo of Maya on his screen, still smiling from that first day when she called him the king of arrogance. I already lost what matters most. Now I just want justice for her. Then, let's get it. But as she hung up, the question lingered at the edge of his mind. If Maya had been right from the start, if their worlds really were too different, then was fighting to be together worth destroying both their worlds in the process? It was a question Henry wasn't sure he was ready to answer. The press conference was scheduled for the next day, but events moved faster than anyone expected. In the middle of the night, Henry received a call that changed everything. Mr. Sterling? The voice was young, nervous. My name is Danny Chen. I worked in the junior design department until today. Speak fast. It's 3 a.m. I had been warned not to talk, but I can't live with this. About the leak of Maya's designs. Henry was instantly awake. What do you know? It wasn't Nathan who started this. He was paid afterward to take the blame. The real leak came from someone with much more access. Who? Meeting tomorrow. I have proof. But Mr. Sterling? Trust only Jennifer. No others. The line went dead. Henry was still processing this when his phone rang again. Victoria. Passion fruit, she said without preamble, her safe word since childhood. What's going on? Found something about that internal investigation you asked for. My contact at the NYPD has connections. There's a paper trail connecting Crimson directly to someone at Sterling, someone high up. Who? Not on the phone. But Henry? Consider that maybe Maya running away was the smartest thing she could have done. What do you mean? I mean that maybe she detected something we missed. Sometimes outsiders see dangers that insiders ignore. Find her, but also protect her, and yourself. After another unsettling conversation, Henry made a decision. At 4 a.m, he drove to Queens, to the address he'd convinced Jason, head of security, to discreetly find out. Maya's apartment building was a modest walk-up in Astoria. Henry climbed 4 flights of worn stairs, so different from his world of private elevators and concierges. When she opened the door, her eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in anger. How did you find me? Maya, we need to talk. Somewhere safe. I'm safe here, away from your world and my world tried to eat you alive. I know, but now I have evidence that this was orchestrated from the inside, and you may still be in danger. She studied his face, then stepped aside. 5 minutes. The apartment was small but full of creativity. Sketches covered the walls, materials scattered on tables, half-finished projects everywhere. It was both chaotic and organized. Pure Maya. I quit, Henry, she said immediately. Not because I believe what they're saying, but because you saw something I missed, he finished. Victoria thinks so too. Victoria is helping you? That's unexpected. Many things have been unexpected lately, including realizing that Henry stopped. That I fell in love for the first time in my adult life, and that it took a corporate conspiracy for me to realize it. Maya's expression softened, then hardened again. Convenient timing. Horrible timing. Perfect honesty. She walked to her window, looking out at the city view. You know what's funny? I spent weeks saying our worlds were too different. Then for a moment, I thought maybe I was wrong. Now I see I was right, but not for the reasons I thought. What do you mean? I thought the problem was money, class, background, but the real problem is power, and who has it, and what they'll do to keep it. Your world doesn't just eat people like me, it turns people against each other. Maya. No, let me finish. I saw something last week. Nathan was getting instructions not just from Crimson. There was someone else, someone who knew exactly when I'd be working on certain designs, someone who could predict my schedule. Henry felt his blood run cold. Who? I don't know, but they knew things only an insider would know. Down to details about private conversations we had. We have to find out who. I have a meeting with someone who claims to have evidence. Henry, Maya interrupted, have you ever considered maybe you shouldn't fight this? What? Maybe cutting your losses is the smart move. I go back to my tent, you go back to your tower, and we both move on with our lives. That's what you want? That's what might keep us both safe. Henry moved closer. Safety was never our priority before. Before our worlds weren't actively trying to destroy each other. So we let them win? Maybe we just choose different battles. Henry reached for her face, stopping just short. A week ago, you stood up to my family, called out my dad's arranged marriage scheme. You told me to choose what I want, not what's expected. Where is that Maya now? That Maya didn't have her creative work stolen, her reputation destroyed, and her family threatened. Your family? Maya, what didn't you tell me? She looked away. Nothing serious, just reporters knocking on my mom's door, asking questions about where she works, if she knew about the supposed romance. That ends now. I have security you can trust putting protection on your mom and anyone else in your family. And that's exactly the problem. Maya exploded. You solve everything with money and power. But some things can't be bought or fixed. Some things need to be endured or escaped. I'm not trying to buy my way out. I'm trying to fight for what's right. For you, for us. Maybe there isn't an us, Henry. Maybe that was the mistake, thinking we could force 2 worlds together when they were never meant to combine. Silence fell heavily between them. Henry felt something breaking inside, and at the same time, something clicking into place. You remember that first day when I pissed on your jewelry? Despite herself, Maya's lips twitched, hard to forget. You called me king of arrogance and told me to look down occasionally, that the world exists below the level of my eyes. Yes, I thought I was learning about your world, but what I really learned was how small my world had become. And not just small, but cowardly, hidden behind layers of protection, tradition, expectation. Henry, no, let me finish. You already taught me how to see. Now I need to decide what I do with that vision. And I choose to fight, not because I'm being brave, but because cowardice has already cost me too much. Maya studied him for a long moment. Fighting could cost you everything. I've already calculated that risk. And nothing worth keeping would be lost by standing up for the truth. She took a deep breath. The meeting you mentioned, when is it? In 3 hours. I'm going with you. Maya? If we're fighting, we fight together. Besides, a flash of her old smile appeared. Someone needs to keep you from making terrible decisions while emotional. Like making terrible decisions is exclusively my territory? Point taken. As they prepared to leave, Maya grabbed an old leather portfolio. Can I show you something before we go? Inside were sketches Henry hadn't seen before. I couldn't sleep the last few days, so I designed. It's a new collection. The designs were unlike anything Maya had created before. Darker, more complex, but somehow even more beautiful. Each piece seemed to tell a story of conflict and resolution. The Truth in War collection, she explained, because sometimes you have to go through hell to find your heaven. Henry looked at her, realizing that even in crisis, Maya's creative spirit couldn't be suppressed. You're extraordinary. You know that? I'm just stubborn. And right now, I'm stubbornly choosing to fight back. But Henry? Yes? After this is over, after we determine who betrayed whom and why, we need to have a real conversation about what comes next. Because crisis isn't a foundation for a relationship. Agreed? For now? For now, let's go find out who's been manipulating both our worlds, and then we make them pay. As they left her apartment, dawn was breaking over New York. Henry couldn't help but think it was symbolic. A new day beginning, bringing either resolution or destruction. Possibly both. Hand in hand, not as CEO and consultant, not as symbols of two different worlds, but as two people who chose to face whatever came next together. The war for their truth was about to begin. The meeting was set at a 24-hour cafe in Brooklyn. Danny Chen had chosen a table in the back, constantly looking over his shoulder. Henry and Maya arrived early, taking positions at opposite corners to observe suspicious movements. Mr. Sterling? Danny approached hesitantly at 6:47 a.m., a briefcase under his arm. Call me Henry. And you know Maya. Miss Santos, I'm sorry for everything. Save it for later, Maya interrupted gently. What do you have for us? Danny opened the briefcase with trembling hands. I started investigating after hearing rumors. Nathan wasn't the mastermind. He was being blackmailed. His sister needs an expensive surgery. He spread out photos, printed emails, and transaction records. The real operation was being run by his operations chief, Richard Chen. Richard? Henry furrowed his brow. But Wait, Chen, are you related? He's my uncle, Danny admitted miserably. I found out he's been selling information to Crimson for months. Not just designs, but strategic plans, acquisition targets, even personal info about executives. Henry studied the documents. Everything was there. Emails, bank transfers, even recorded conversations. At that moment, Jennifer appeared at the door. Henry had invited her, but only for security. However, as she approached, her expression was strange. Jennifer? Henry stood up. Sorry, Henry. I tried to stop this. Behind her, Richard Chen entered with 2 bodyguards, but they weren't Sterling security, and they weren't there to protect Henry. Great job, Danny, Richard said calmly, guiding them exactly where I wanted. What followed was a mix of tension and revelations. Richard tried one last move, but Jennifer and Maya had set a trap. Everything was being broadcast live to the Sterling board, the police, and strategic journalists. You made a critical mistake, Maya said calmly. When the police took Richard away, Henry found himself outside the cafe with Maya, Jennifer, Victoria, and Danny. And now? Maya asked. Now, Henry said, taking a deep breath. I need to clean up my company. Fire a few people, promote others, and maybe restructure some things. What kind of restructuring? The kind where ethical designers with unconventional backgrounds get respected positions, where the ambition to do good work is valued more than political networking, where people can be their true selves. Big challenge, Henry Sterling. I've learned about big challenges from someone inspiring. 3 months later, Maya's boutique opened in Soho. Part gallery, part workshop, part center for teaching underprivileged youth interested in the arts. Sterling Luxury Dynasty was a partner investor, but the vision was entirely Maya's. Henry split his time between the office and the workshop, discovering that the skills that made him a good CEO surprisingly translated well to crafting. A year passed. It was a Sunday morning, and Maya was setting up her booth on Fifth Avenue. She still went back there occasionally to her roots. "Maya," Henry said nervously, his hands hidden behind his back. "What's up? You're acting weird today." "I was just thinking about that first morning when I stepped on your jewelry. Hard to forget. You were so arrogant, and you put me in my place. You taught me that there's life beyond my glass world." Maya smiled, "And you learned well." Henry knelt down in the middle of the sidewalk, under the curious gaze of passers-by. "Maya Santos," his voice trembled slightly, "you've changed my life in ways I didn't even know were possible. You taught me to see beauty in unexpected places, to create with my hands, to fight for what's right, even when it's hard." He took a small box from his pocket. "I made this for you. It took me months to get it right." Inside was a unique ring, a blend of 2 different metals, with a stone that changed color depending on the light. "Like us," Maya whispered, tears in her eyes. 2 worlds creating something new. "Will you marry me? Not because it's strategically advantageous or because our families expect it, but because I can't imagine my life without your shouts through a pink megaphone, your sarcastic looks, and your laugh that brightens any day." "Yes," Maya practically shouted. 1,000 times yes. Passers-by spontaneously applauded as Henry slipped the ring on her finger. 6 months later, the wedding happened in a way only Maya and Henry could have imagined. The ceremony was in Central Park, with guests sitting on simple benches. Maya wore a dress she had sewn herself, with jewelry details she had specially created. Jennifer was the maid of honor, Victoria was one of the bridesmaids, and even Nathan, who had completely redeemed himself, was there. The most magical moment was when Henry pulled out a pink megaphone during their vows. "Attention, attention," he shouted, perfectly imitating Maya. "We're offering a special promotion today. If you find your true love, it's on sale." Maya laughed so hard she almost dropped her bouquet. "Forever?" she whispered once she calmed down. "Forever," Henry confirmed. "With workshops, street sales, board meetings, late-night laughs, and impossible projects." When they kissed, fireworks exploded in the sky, a surprise from Jennifer. At the reception, Maya grabbed her megaphone one last time. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate the moment when a billionaire CEO learned that the best treasures are priceless. And a jewelry saleswoman discovered that some executives are worth teaching," Henry added. And so, under the New York sky, 2 people who started with colliding worlds ended up dancing together, creating their own music, their own dance, their own happily ever after. What did you think of the story of Maya and Henry? Leave your thoughts in the comments. On a scale of 0 to 10, what rating would you give it? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to keep up with all our stories. Also, feel free to check out more emotional stories by clicking here on the final screen.